Within Segmentum Tempestus, there's a map scar so old that even the Administratum's dust forgets it. A death world lost to storms. The data tithes call it Granda Prime, a ball of black glass, fungus, and teeth where lightning walks and the wind prays and screams. No hives, no saints, only rust, obsidian jungles, and feral greenskins who treat thunder like a drumline. On a sunless morning that had no right to be different from the last 1,000, the northern sky split. Not a storm, not a meteor, but a wound. Reality shearing. Light bleeding out around the edges like a cauterized brand. The stars above Granda Prime didn't blur. They vanished, clipped from existence by a circular seam that pulsed with warp burn. Listening posts no one had serviced in a century died in a chorus of melted optics. A gamma swell rolled across high atmosphere. Then, from the center of the wound, a green comet tore down, dragging a wake of broken physics and vaporized cloud. The void did not bend around it. It broke. The impact struck a plateau of volcanic glass and fungus. Mountains buckled. A crater opened that would shame the footprint of a mid-hive. Squiggoths screamed and knelt without knowing why. Rivers recoiled. The black jungle fell flat, then tried to stand, then fell again as the aftershock kept coming. Silence except for flame and falling stone. Shattered rock hung in the air, suspended by misbehaving gravity. The crater's heart glowed green-white. Something moved, slow, deliberate, tight and quiet. He rose, steam hissed off broken basalt. The air smelled like peeled batteries and blood. Two suns opened where eyes should be, molten green and widening. Knuckles flexed. Bone-hard fists cracked the stone caught inside them. The first breath sounded like failed geology. Where? A voice like grinding cliffs. Where is this? Memory flickered. A ship, a trap. Banner's mind stuck in a splintered mirror. Betrayal, anger, a miracle of restraint that lasted the half-life of a spark. The Worldbreaker looked up at a sky still bleeding green and answered the world with a fist on his own chest, steadying an anger that had nothing to steady it. Granda Prime is exactly the sort of place the Imperium forgets until it remembers and sends fire. The soil is poison, the trees are knives. Feral orcs roam in clans that don't know where they came from and don't care, fighting over cave teeth and rust that remembers being vehicles. When the comet fell, the nearest warband saw the flash and named it in the only theology they trust. WAAAGH! A sign, a loud promise. The biggest of them, scarred, tusked, with a shoulder plate made from a crashed shuttle, grinned until gum showed. Something big, the boss croaked. Something worth hitting. They marched, not in ranks, but as a weather front. Choppers of bone and scrap, shooters with triggers that worked because want is a kind of glue for orcs. Drums made of barrels, war banners painted, with ash and fruiting fungus. The jungle pointed them the right way because it hated the crater more than it hated them. They arrived to find a man-shaped problem the size of a tank, standing in steam and neon, watching the sky tear itself shut. His features were human if you sketched a human with rage for ink and granite for paper. His body language said not pray, the crater said not pray, the smell of ozone said this one kills storms. The boss threw back his head and laughed like a gun learning a new sound. He lifted a cleaver that had been three things before it was a weapon, and howled to the WAAAGH field that hums between orcs when a fight is about to remember why it exists. "I'm the biggest," he told the universe. "Let's see if you're bigger." The Worldbreaker blinked, calm, almost curious. Something behind the eyes tried to say, "Stand down, we don't know this." Something louder said, "This place spoke first, and it spoke with violence. So speak back." He lowered into a stance that doesn't have a name because it doesn't need one. The boss charged. Everyone else charged because they were inside the geometry of his confidence. Hulk moved once. The ground agreed with him and broke. Bodies and weapons and shards of black earth lifted, drifted, then skated out in a ring. The boss's charge turned into a confused sprint through air that forgot it was air. The first punch didn't hit the orc, it hit the WAAAGH, and the WAAAGH blinked. Sound came back wrong. The boss landed wrong. His jaw learned about directions it had never asked for. The orcs screamed. Not in fear, because that's not their culture card, but in delight. They were being answered. The field deepened, loud and green, a hum at tooth level, at nail level, at want level. They fired. Bullets blinked, pinged, howled. A lucky round tore skin sealed. Someone threw a stick bomb. Hulk plucked it from the air without looking and put it back where it came from. The shockwave knocked a ring of orcs into the ring of other orcs, which pleases orcs. Heh, the boss said around a slack jaw. Bigger. He swung. Hulk caught the blade with an open hand and crushed it with the slow grace of a hydraulic press. The boss saw his reflection in a fist. The fist obliged the physics lesson. Greenskins ran. Greenskins rallied. Greenskins ran sideways because their field decided left was a better tactical doctrine. Hulk walked through them like weather that forgot how to be asked for mercy. He wasn't busy. He wasn't gloating. He wasn't anything but applied intent. At the edge of the crater, a pain boy with a lamp on his head. And a sociopathic interest in anatomy took furious notes that should have been diagrams. "He's a squig without earth," he muttered. "New bones. Want them bones." He ordered a mech to find bigger Daka. The mech laughed and pointed at the crater. "Already found it," he said. Far above the jungle where decaying satellites end, their careers in dignified spirals, a Mechanicus listening array thought it was being clever. It stared at the auroral soup around Granda Prime, trying to take a warp's pulse with instruments designed by people who used candles to debug. When the rift opened, the array did what weak things do under strong moments. It wrote a log and died. The log made it off-planet before the optics melted. An uncrewed relay buoy, in love with its job beyond reason, threw the packet towards civilized space. Weeks or months away, depending on storm and luck, the packet would trip an Inquisitorial crawler designed to scream when it smelled certain words. Gamma spike, gravity torsion, anthropoid mass, impact survivability, non-compliant. On Terra, no one cared yet. On Mars, someone would argue about the proper color of the warning glyph for green. But in a little Ordo Xenos cell with too much curiosity and not enough budget, an analyst with tired eyes would eventually squint at a waveform and say, "That profile doesn't match anything we let ourselves believe in." In the meantime, the only civilization paying attention was made of fungus and joy. Rage is not a psychic talent in the clinical sense, but it radiates, and the warp eats radiation if it comes with meaning. The Worldbreaker's anger was a discipline shaped by trauma and choice, and 1,000 betrayals. The warp tasted it, then tasted what it could not quite touch, and decided to send something curious. The first ripple came as pressure. The crater's steam shifted direction. Heat went quiet. A shadow bigger than the shadow that should have been there leaned over the rim. A demon tested the air like a cautious kingfisher over black water. Hulk's eyes found it without ceremony. No psalms, no sanctified names. His body simply knew the predator in the angle of the shadow. No. The word arrived with a rock. The rock arrived with enough intent to decide the difference between manifest and mistake. The demon's head, if that's what it was, forgot to be an object and returned to being a problem. The warp edge shivered. Orcs cheered because something exploded and you don't need to see it for it to be good. The demon reassembled its thought about the crater from a safer distance. Other things, thinner, hungrier, stayed hungry. Banner tried to surface under the noise. The old training said count, breathe, name what you can control. What he could control were angles and trajectories, so he counted those. It helped. Not much. A little. Apocalypse-class punches have consequences. Granda Prime is a damaged thing. Its crust holds grudges. The crater wasn't just a hole. It was a decision the planet would have to live with. The gravitic torsion that kept stones floating at the impact center stopped being interesting and started being dangerous. Rockfalls began. Lava found seams. The next time Hulk brought both fists down to answer a line of orcs driving a ramshackle truck off the cliff edge. Successful flight, unsuccessful landing. The fault line beneath the plateau opened like a book losing patience. Ground's angry, Hulk growled. Good. Banner, dim but stubborn, wrote it down in the only notebook he had. The part of his mind that still cared to know why. Orcs are a machine whose parts are idiots and geniuses in alternating shells. The pain boy wanted samples, the mech wanted tools, the boss wanted a story that ended with him larger. They found a half-buried shuttle fuselage stripped to saintless bones. They found cranes grown out of trees, rope made from cable that survived on faith that it was still cable. They built, not slowly, because orcs don't have patience in their culture pack, but fast, under the heat of the sun the clouds forgot to admit they had. A walker shook itself up from junk. You could hear decisions in the welds. A right arm made of rebar and dreams ending in a claw meant for bragging. A left arm that was a cannon because balance is for smaller problems. Legs that had once been pillars in a mine and were now excellent arguments for forward. They painted it with smoke and hope. They gave it a name that meant, this will make the ground listen in a dialect no human linguist has written down. The boss climbed the ladder to the cockpit, which was not a cockpit but a chair with levers and a prayer. You, he told the machine, are bigger. The machine agreed because WAAAGH fields are consent engines. Down in the crater, Hulk felt the whump-whump of a heavy thing learning to walk. He looked up with the resigned interest of a man hearing a second plate hit the floor behind him after cleaning the first. The walker stumbled, found rhythm, and then charged under the encouragement of 24 shooters firing enthusiasm into the sky. Hulk leaped. The walker swung. The claw found nothing but trajectory. Hulk did not land where the ground expected. He arrived where the joint would have been if someone had thought about joints. The blow didn't just dent, it simplified. The machine wobbled under the metaphysics of being both there and also not a leg anymore. The cannon roared. A shell argued for absence. Hulk's arm answered with presence and sent the shell back into a new career as a lesson. The walker lost a shoulder, then a head, then an argument with gravity. Orcs screamed in grief and joy, and that was beautiful. Let's do it again. Bigger, Hulk said softly to no one and to the air. Need bigger. He wasn't bragging. He was problem solving. By the time the relay packet reached a Navy listening station, its metadata had aged enough to qualify for a pension. Still, it tripped the alarms it was built to trip. Within 12 hours, a lieutenant with a coffee problem was trying to decide whether to escalate a ghost. She escalated. The packet went to a named Inquisitor who did not like surprises and liked budget cuts even less. He read the words, anthropoid mass and post-impact locomotion, and made a decision people like him exist to make. If it's ours, he told a wall that paid attention, we will rein it in. If it's theirs, we burn it. If it's neither, we measure it until it is dead, or ours. He requisitioned a patrol group he could call a survey if asked and a strike if needed. He asked Mars for pattern matches. Mars asked back whether the term green in the alert was literal or theological. He requested an astropathic scan of the region. The choir winced and sent back an unhelpful shiver. Something angry, something loud, not in the warp, but the warp caring anyway. He said the correct words to open the armory. He wrote the correct lies to keep the budget safe. He wrote a name for the file that meant nothing to anyone but him. He did what good villains and good heroes both do. He moved. Meanwhile, Granda Prime decided to have a day. The vault opened again. The jungle burned from inside out. Clouds condensed into knives and then into rain because they were tired. The crater's rim slumped, slid, and tried to become a tongue licking down onto the man who had asked it such difficult questions. Hulk caught a boulder that had meant to be a planet once. He didn't set it down. He used it to shield a line of fleeing orcs from a stone avalanche, because they were in the way of the next fight, and because Banner had not gone to sleep completely. Go! The voice carried in a way voices don't. Instrumental, not emotional. Next. They went. Not because of mercy, although it happened to be mercy, but because of clarity. The orcs liked clarity almost as much as they liked noise. The last of the rift light finally sealed shut, snapping like a lid on a jar full of gas. The jungle remembered 1,000 little things it had to do and went to do them. The crater cooled from glow to glower. You could walk to the center now if you didn't value walking tomorrow. Hulk stood and listened to a world that still sounded wrong to him. He listened harder, trying to find Banner's map, the moral geometry that used to live behind his eyes. It came back in edges. Protect what is weak when it is in the way of the strong. Break the thing that claims ownership of what it did not earn. Leave the quiet alone until it asks for you. Predators adapted. If a direct push in this place's yowling physics bled into... No, the next move wasn't a bigger demon. The next move was suggestion. A dream got on its feet and walked like a memory. He saw a ship corridor, rust and fluorescent gilt. He saw hands that had touched him like lab gloves. He heard a voice that used the right words wrong. The anger tried to stand up and run. Banner put a hand on it, not to stop, but to steer. Not real, Banner said inside. But the fear is real. Use the fear. Hulk exhaled and the dream folded like a paper animal learning it was wet. The warp's attention withdrew a meter and glowered, which is nearly a punch where it comes from. It pencil-sketched a cult out of fungus spore and hatred of quiet. The cult got busy in a cave, drawing circles, saying stolen names. They were going to die, but the dying would make noise, and noise is a weapon if you can't have a blade. Worldbreaker took 3 strides toward the jungle. He didn't run. He didn't need to. The walker's corpse steamed behind him. The orcs were busy inventing a new religion with his fist for a totem. The planet grumbled, but not in a way that needed addressing yet. At the edge of the crater he stopped, not because he couldn't keep going, but because the wind changed. Not smell, pressure. A shock that legs learn before ears do. Through cloud and ash and the residue of impossible, a drop thing cut the air. Not an Imperial drop pod, wrong shape, wrong confidence. Something older and too proud of its curves. It smashed rock and exhaled steam and lay like a metal seed discovering regret. Hulk approached. The seed opened like a throat with teeth, 3 panels folding back, pistons venting. Inside, a man in yellow and a machine that had loved him since morning. The man staggered out, carrying a weapon too clean for this place. His eyes caught up with reality, saw the green, tried to fit it inside a category his upbringing had issued him, failed and reached for faith instead. Faith failed him. The weapon didn't. He raised it because he was small and alone and the world had just introduced him to a myth he hadn't wanted to meet. Don't, Hulk said. The man did. The beam bothered Hulk like a bee with a strong moral position. Hulk took the weapon away without killing the man all the way and set them at the crater's edge. Because rage is not incompatible with triage. The machine in the pod screamed in a language of servos and outrage. Hulk looked inside. What looked back was useful. A power plant, a supply of parts, and a mirror for a moment in which he saw Banner's hands. Tools, he said, and the word made a plan inside the emptiness. Night fell the way it does on places that never had day, abruptly with malice. The crater steamed like a wounded lung. Far off, a walker died again in the stories orcs told around fires that were entirely unnecessary but psychologically important. Hulk sat on a slab of basalt that thought it was a chair now. He watched the stars try to be brave. He pressed one hand against his chest, not for pain, not for comfort, but for calibration. "Need bigger," he said softly. It wasn't greed. It was strategy. The thing that had thrown him here wasn't done, and the things that would come wouldn't come politely. He had a tool now. He had a plan's outline. He had a planet that would break if he didn't learn to make it break on purpose. Out past the ash line, something with a servo heart bled in Morse. Up above, a Navy captain signed a requisition that would put Astartes and credulity in the same sentence, which is always bad news for a planet. The Imperium answers in gray and gold. Gray for doctrine, gold for faith. The Mechanicus answers in red, the color of warnings and unblinking lenses. The orcs answer in green, louder than drums. The warp answers in everything at once. A wound just opened on a forgotten death world and said hello in gamma and gravity. Every color turns its head. A data packet limped into a Navy array as if it had walked there. The tech priests hosting the machine spirit wrote 2 reports. One for the Admiralty, polite, austere, and one for a name that traveled faster than ships. Inquisitor Varel Aves, Ordo Xenos. Aves was not tall in any way that mattered. He wore regulation like a weapon and budget cuts like a vendetta. He read the words anthropoid mass, impact survivability, non-compliant, radiation wave front, gravitic torsion residuals, and frowned in procedural. He did not say demon. He said the worst word, unknown. Unknowns get money. Unknowns get ships. Unknowns get Astartes if someone signs in the right place. Avis signed. Not a crusade. A survey that could become a strike without warning. Paperwork matters to men who hunt monsters because it decides who gets to make the last mistake. The task group he assembled could pass for a routine patrol if you didn't read the footnotes. A light cruiser with clean lance batteries and an armory that had forgotten what rust looked like. 2 frigates painted the bureaucratic gray of plausible deniability. A custodial charter for temporary cooperation with those Astartes willing to sign their names next to alien corpses. Deathwatch. A small kill team, enough to take the measure of a question. He sent 3 orders down the chain. Mask the objective. The file is a navigation anomaly resolution. The word green does not appear outside of humor. Astropathic sweep. Ask the choir what flavor of fear the region is drinking. Do not tell them which glass to look at. Mars packet. Solicit pattern matches from the Mechanicus without telling them what they're matching. The cult Mechanicus loves answers they can't give. He watched the ships prep from a balcony designed to make men feel smaller. He did not pray. He did not drink. He composed a lie for later and kept it simple, which is the only way you can carry a lie across interstellar space without it rotting. On Mars, the packet went to a Magos Logos with a face like a cathedral facade. She read the numbers twice, then tilted her head as if listening for a higher clock. Signal morphology suggests impact from trans-Newtonian mass, said an adjunct servitor. And anger, said the Magos almost kindly. They convened a closed colloquy. Robes rustled, voxygen hissed. The words abominable intelligence fluttered through the chamber like a very old moth that had paid for the right to be annoying. A junior tech priest whose mind was still flexible enough to imagine suggested a man-shaped engine. Heretical anthropomorphizing someone, scolded. Which is Mechanicus, for I am afraid of this idea. Mars sent back what Mars always sends back first, a we need more. They did sneak something useful into the footnotes, a note about weaponizing the environment if the anomaly proved difficult to quantify. Control the platform, world, not just the target, thing. In another age, they would have called it siegecraft. In this one, it's planetary systems engineering. Faith moves faster than fleets. The ecclesiarchy picked up rumors like a tide gathers lanterns. Confessors reported dream visions shifting from Baroque martyrdom to focus, the same attend that Terra had quietly logged in another file for another chapter. Pilgrims wrote letters that used the verb hears with capital H. The mid-tier missionary frigate changing course near Segmentum Tempestus asked for clearance to perform spiritual assistance to an unnamed patrol. The request threaded the needle of bureaucracy because it said the right nouns in the right order. Aves agreed to the escort with the kind of smile administrators wear when they are about to owe someone and plan to pay with someone else's time. Limit the priests to deck 4, he told the cruiser's captain. And sermons to deck 0, the captain replied. They both knew how that would go. Orcs have doctrine. They don't write it down because they don't write anything down, but it lives in the field that lives between them. The nearest warband had a new story, a green comet that fought like thunder and won. The boss, jaw hinged with wire now, declared a build. They were feral, which means poor, which means creative. A vast proto-stompa rose out of scrapyard and will, a bell with legs and a grievance. They hung charms of bone and broken instruments. They painted gods they didn't believe in because they could see them. Fists, craters, knives the size of trees. The mech who had called the first walker good enough now called himself Big Mech and planted towers that were more idea than structure, noise pylons. He claimed they would sing the Worldbreaker to the right fight. The field agreed. They hummed a frequency that made teeth itch. The Pain Boy organized volunteers who did not understand the word. He promised them new bones and meant it. Everyone cheered. No one asked what it would cost because orcs keep all their coins in victory. Hulk dragged the drop thing he had captured out of the crater's breath and into the arms of a broken coolie. He tore it open with respect, that is to say, fast, but careful around the parts that wanted to explode. Banner's hands surfaced. The fingers remembered gloves. The eyes remembered schematics even when there were none. He did not build weapons. He built restraints and levers. A gauntlet brace to spread force when he hit the ground so the ground did not always break the wrong way. A damping harness mined from reactor shielding to bleed off some of the charge he carried when there were fragile things near enough to care. A cradle of field-stiffened metal where he could sit without making the geology worse. Something like a chair, something like a promise. The work calmed the furnace without putting it out. He sat in the brace and listened to the jungle learn new wind. Grotz watched from the brush with the altruism of ticks. One crept near, eyes like obsidian beads in wet bark. It offered him a bolt as if to a household god. Hulk took the bolt and set it on the ground with enormous delicacy. The Grot stared, then fled. The story it told made it look much braver. The Imperium sulks when a meal refuses to bleed correctly. The local pressure thinned. The predators retreated a step. The next iteration was liturgy, not a god descending. Those do not fit into chapters easily, but hunger arriving in the shape of faith. A cave acquired a choir, not orcs, they make their own music. Human scavers, thin as the roots they gnawed, had survived in the margins of this world by hiding from larger nouns. Something whispered to them about meaning and orders and sacrifice. They lit fungus torches. They painted circles. They sang names they should not know with mouths that could not pronounce them. The warp enjoys amateurs. They make excellent doors. A presence pressed a thumb against the world from the other side. The cave's temperature forgot it was a number. The torches stood instead of burned. The cultists smiled because they did not own the faces doing the smiling. In the sigh between two chants, one of them fell to his knees and began to draw something he had never seen and always feared. A man-shaped outline with no place for a shadow. The cave felt seen. Caves love being seen. It offered a pipe that became an altar that became a mouth. 3 grots disappeared that night. No one important noticed until the field noticed, and then everyone important was suddenly very interested. Space folded and muttered. The cruiser came in nose first, lances quiet, auspexes open like hands. The frigates tucked into escort positions as if embarrassed by their own thinness. The missionary frigate lit its chapel as if the warp were a congregation. On the Deathwatch deck, a kill team prepared like artisans rather than brawlers. Black plate immaculate, lenses red as patient warnings. Names shown in scratched Gothic on shoulder rims. They dealt in proportions. Any Xeno's problem should be solved at the smallest necessary scale with the greatest necessary finality. Threat classification? Asked the sergeant. A man whose voice had been forged on a different anvil than other men's voices. Sigma Prime unknown, said Aves. He kept his distance. He had the mandate to command them, not the confidence to believe he should. Containment? The sergeant continued. Visual contact, pattern capture. Lethal authority if containment fails. It will fail, the sergeant said mildly, and it did not sound like prophecy. It sounded like arithmetic. The astropath sang and bled and returned with grief barely sewn into words, anger without leak, noise that refuses noise, a denial shaped like a man. One collapsed with a smile and a word burned on his tongue. Vector. We are not alone in wanting this, said Aves to himself and to anyone who thought the warp didn't count. A Thunderhawk skimmed the cloud lids, its engines negotiating with the atmosphere rather than bullying it. It did not scream down to the crater like a dare. It arrived on the flank where the elevation gave clean sight lines and the wind carried data. The kill team disembarked with the quiet you only get when every joint has learned humility. The world arranged itself around their presence the way rooms adjust to knives, without argument. Below, a figure out of heresy fiction, green, colossal, sat on a metal cradle under a sky that had decided to try stars again. Steam hung like a vote that hadn't been counted yet. A giant, said the apothecary as if commenting on a specimen. Biomass readings, fluctuating, cyclopean resilience. Not cyclopean, the librarian said softly, helm slightly canted. That would imply doors. This is a wall. The sergeant made the sign that meant angles. They fanned and took them. Targeters reported the academic truths of range and wind and the flammability of dreams. The Hulk looked up, head turning as if the air had a sound only he could hear. He did not stand quickly. He stood like policy. Don't, he said. The word landed among them and was judged and found not irrelevant. Identify, the sergeant answered, which is what you say in a universe where everything that wants to kill you has at least the courtesy to introduce itself. Hulk, said Hulk, as if that solved things. Worldbreaker. Names have power. That one had too much. The librarian felt the warp bend to taste it and then stutter, confused at the lack of purchase. He dragged a gloved thumb over a purity seal the way some men drag thumb over scars. Sigma Prime speaks low, the apothecary noted into the channel, because someone has to put these moments into a chart where they will be misread later. Stand from the cradle, the sergeant said. Kneel. Hulk's laugh did not fit in the channel. It did not fit in the air. It wasn't loud because volume is a toy. It was total because certainty is a blade. No! The first shot was not a shot. It was a testing, a round placed on a plate of shoulder where it would do no more than announce itself. It did. Hulk rocked as a star fleck of ceramite spalled away. The wound noticed that it was a wound and then forgot. The second shot did not come because the sergeant did not waste bullets on proofs he had already read. Pattern, he said. The kill team moved like finished math. They tried nets that had turned beasts into commas. Hulk pulled the nets like veils off a face that had known too many veils. They tried charges that teach stone about regret. Hulk returned the lessons politely. A blade found skin. Skin learned a trick from history and reminded the blade that it had a boss. The librarian stepped forward with care because his art is rude in worlds like this. He pushed a thought, sleep, and watched it fail like a sermon to a storm. The backlash didn't push him down. It pushed him back into himself, into training, into doctrine. And he learned something he would write down in a report no one would publish. Some bodies do not host the warp. They host refusal. Treat them as you would a fortress inside a vacuum, by physics, not prayer. Then the world offered a distraction none of them had paid for, noise pylons waking, their harmonics like saws against bone. The orcs came again, this time organized by music. The proto-stompa bellwalker strode with a believer's gait. Feral lads in bone-rigged parachutes fell like badly considered angels, howling to gods that had agreed to attend for the spectacle. The sergeant looked at the green question, then at the oncoming answer. He made the choice the Imperium makes when it can't make all of them. Hold fire on Sigma Prime, prioritize the machine. He didn't like it. He did it anyway. Bolter fire wrote punctuation across the walker's faith. Melta kissed the knee that thought it was exempt. The bell tottered. The WAAAGH field shouted, I don't accept this reality, and for a heartbeat reality, put it to a committee vote. Hulk moved through the argument like a majority. He hit the walker where belief lived and knocked it down to where mass does. The kill team learned a phrase that would keep them awake. Allied incident. They fought with a thing they had come to fight. There are words for that in the codex. They are all written in reluctant ink. The walker fell and tried to get up and learned what legs were for. Orcs poured around the wreck in glee and grief because orcs treat those as synonyms. Hulk swatted a chute out of the sky with a patience that looked like cruelty and wasn't. The sergeant set a charge and did not apologize. The Thunderhawk returned because no one likes playing knife games under a growing storm. The librarian left a small beacon the way a man leaves a question on a table before walking out of the room. The team exfiltrated with the kind of professional regret that doesn't show on a helmet. Your designation, the sergeant called across the wind as a courtesy to the story. Hulk, Hulk said again, less for them than to keep the map straight. Worldbreaker. We will return, the sergeant said, because it sounded righteous and because it was true. Good, said Hulk. On the cruiser, Aves listened to the kill team's vox in one ear and the astropathic racket in the other. The Ministorum liaison, Confessor Primus Hale, stood behind him like a god whose hobby was second-guessing. You see? Hale breathed. A test. The Emperor sets the stone and watches the ripples. I see an escalation, Aves said. and a planet that will punish our timetable. He drew a triangle on the table with a gloved finger. Xenos engine, green skin escalation, warp cult ignition. He did not write exterminatus in the center because you do not write your worst ideas first. We lance the noise pylons, he told the captain. We deny the orcs their music. We suffocate the field before it writes a book. And the green engine? The captain asked. Captains ask clear questions when they're afraid of the answers. Observe, Aves said, and meant learn. Contain if it presents containment, kill if it chooses everyone. The Deathwatch sergeant said nothing, which sounded like assent and probably meant I am already planning better. The warp cult in the cave learned the true word for audience. Their circles became spirals, became holes. The altar spit light, a handprint pressed against nothing from the wrong side with the elegant contempt of a noble at a border crossing. A shape arrived by failing to be elsewhere. It stood like a theology and wore the suggestion of bone. It carried blades that might have been fingers if you were born cruel. It tasted the air and found Hulk at once, the way hawks find rabbits the field hasn't had time to hide. The cultists screamed in admiration, then in realization, which are too often the same song. Above, the noise pylons rolled from hum to howl, then cut, clean lances from orbit kissing them into forgetfulness. The field stuttered. The proto-stompa's heart looked for a priest and found none. Orcs froze in the pause between fight and story. The demon walked out of the cave. Hulk turned and walked toward it. The world remembered how to hold its breath. The kill team strapped in with the anger of men who had discovered a puzzle that answered back. The sergeant stared at his gauntlet where Hulk's refusal had scuffed it and filed the feeling away as a tool. On the bridge, Aves signed a new order in a hand that enjoyed clarity. Deny the WAAAGH. Watch the green burn the cave. He permitted himself one private ambition and locked it behind the calmest face a man can wear. Find out if it can die, he said softly, or if we must negotiate with a boulder. On Granda Prime, the demon stepped out of faith and into air. It smiled with the styles of 100 forgotten kings. Hulk smiled back the way gravity smiles, without sentiment. Far away on Mars, Imagos lifted a finger and said to a room that cared too much about precision, "Open the vault." Somewhere in red-lit catacombs, something with too many locks began to count. Orbit speaks first. Blue-white lines rake the horizon, kissing the noise pylons until they forget their song. One by one, the gantries go dark, no sonic herd calls, no field chorus. The WAAAGH stutters like a drum line, losing its metronome. On the ground, orcs jerk and blink. Some laugh because confusion is a new kind of fun. Others fight the nearest thing because losing rhythm is an insult. The proto-stompa bell walker, its faith tied to voices now ash, lurches. Pistons cough out prayers. The bell inside it tolls once as if embarrassed, then goes quiet. On the cruiser, Inquisitor Aves lifts a finger. Good. Keep the center band clean, he says, as if he is editing a banner instead of a battlefield. Lances hold. The floor of the jungle exhales. The cave stops being geography and starts being an argument. Heat drains. Torches stand to attention. A circle becomes a spiral, becomes a mouth. Slender limbs of coalesced malice step through as if the air were a curtain and etiquette were a weapon. Bones suggesting armor plates. Finger blades that are not fingers. The impression of a crown. The kind you can only wear when someone else is paying. The cult kneels in a choreography that isn't theirs. The demon's face is a decision, still searching for which decision. It leans toward the crater as a hawk leans toward a hare. It tastes the world and finds a flavor it does not like but very much wants to own. The demon takes a step. The cave breathes with it. Hulk stands from his metal cradle without hurry. He checks the damping harness banner built from reactor shielding and good intentions. It sits across his shoulders like a quiet idea. He rolls a shoulder, the world rolls with it. He doesn't run, he arrives, and the ground accepts his terms. No, he says for the record. The demon smiles as kings smile at peasants who bring taxes. It extends a finger knife with exquisite contempt and draws an arc through the air that leaves a gash in the story of that air. The cut tries to be real. Reality declines the invitation. Hulk declines harder. The first exchange is contactless, pressure against presence. The demon pushes meaning, Hulk pushes mass. The collision throws off sleet and grammar, trees bow. The cultists' smiles widen because they cannot stop. And then they break at the corners like wet paint sliding off stone. High on the ridge, the kill team watches like carpenters inspecting a landslide. The sergeant's voice comes cold and clear. Primary is the door. The engine can fight, the door can only open or close. They move. The librarian descends toward the cave with warded steps. Auspex reading everywhere and nowhere. The tech marine shoulders a pack that hums like a suppressed truth. Hexagrammic projectors slave to a null pattern cribbed from a dozen wars where prayers were too slow. Containment grid here, here, and apothecary the third, the tech marine says, pointing at the air the way you point at ideas when you own the math behind them. Charges go down like punctuation. Tiny incense smoke of sanctified oils burrows into rock. Cables snake into a Cartheus field frame that had 3 more locks than the requisition sheet admitted. It will not close a warp mouth, but it will make the mouth speak quieter. The apothecary sets a phage suppressant torch inside the grid. No fire, just absence that eats the edges of wrong. Surgical, he murmurs. The sergeant gives the librarian a nod that means try it. The librarian reaches out his craft not at the demon, but at the choir behind it. Human throats turned hinges. He takes the hymn they think they know and twists the key. Not exorcism, dissonance. The melody skews, the cult's smiles falter as muscles remember they were not hired for this. The mouth of the cave shudders. The demon's head cocks, as if hearing a joke it didn't tell. It changes shape, because hunger always does. The crown becomes horn, the fingers lengthen into arguments, the plates re-articulate into mockeries of valor. It manifests a lance despair makes when it is tired of waiting. The cave's air not only makes room, it prefers the lance. It comes at Hulk with the speed of a decision. Hulk is a decision. Metal rings as bone-adjacent blade meets brace. Banner's gauntlet spreads impact across frame. The damping harness eats the leftover. Hulk's heels leave twin notarized imprints in stone. The demon expects leakage, pain, fear, memory, and it finds silence. The emptiness that answers is not apathy, it is discipline. The kind that was earned in laboratories and deserts and ships where mercy had to be a verb if it was going to survive. Hulk answers by picking a vector. The demon's lance overextends. Hulk shifts, pivots, and puts his hand in the place where the world will reward leverage. He doesn't strike the weapon. He strikes the intention that holds it together. The lance shivers, goes soft at the edges, becomes less sure. He follows with mass. The ground shouts under his footfalls. The demon flies, a physics problem in a robe, and hits the cave mouth where the grid is half-born. The frame hums, then hums louder. Runes flare. The mouth thins. "Hold it!" the sergeant says, not to Hulk, not to the demon, but to the trap. Far flank. A conga line of bone-rigged parachutes paints the air in enthusiastic error. Orcs with mortars on their backs call down bellowing cylinders that do not know which team they're on. A pair of mechs wheel up a tractor cannon that looks like a lie until it works. They fire. The beam grabs Hulk the way a child grabs the concept of gravity and drags it a foot to the left. He skids, surprised not at the pull but at the nerve. The mechs cheer. The beam flares as the WAAAGH field decides it likes the story. Hulk plants his feet. The brace glows a quiet orange and holds. He leans into the pull until angles become his again, then tears a chunk of basalt off the rim and loops the beam's line around it without looking. The tractor Kanan obligingly drags its own anchor into its own face. The explosion is both educational and on brand. The orcs go wild. "He's fighting with fights," the pain boy sobs, ecstatic. On the bridge, Aves watches two fights, engine versus hunger, door versus grid. The missionary frigate bleeds hymns into the circuit because it cannot help itself. Confessor Primus Hale's voice crackles down a line Aves did not authorize. "Name it, and the Emperor shall bend it." "No names," Aves says. "Labels chain men, they don't chain engines." He points to the cave. "Put the rest of the lances on the periphery. Graze only. If we crack the roof, we feed it." The captain arches a brow. "And the green asset?" "Let it work," Aves answers. "And if that sounds like heresy, it is the useful kind." The librarian closes his eyes to better see. His art is a scalpel, not a cudgel. He listens for the interval the cult cannot hold, just a fraction between faith and fear, and plays it like a tuning fork into the frame the tech marine built. The grid sings back flat and true. The mouth shrinks from gullet to grin. The demon snarls in 100 alphabets. It tries another tactic, memories. Banner is there the second the first illusion arrives. Halls that smell like bleach and certainty. Voices saying his name in case it buys them ownership. Hands with clipboards for knuckles. "Not real," Banner says, steadying the wheel. "Use the fear." Hulk breathes out and the picture goes away as if dismissed from a classroom. The demon is older than tricks, but tricks are what it has. Hulk feints left with the basalt slab, not as a weapon but as terrain, forces the demon to plant for a counter that presumes rules, then removes the rule, a pivot into a shove that turns into a step that turns into the ground. Choosing to be in the way of the demon's spine. The demon folds, it doesn't bleed, it leaks. The cave twitches under the grid's song. The cult finally stops smiling because jaws remember musculature. The tech marine flips a final interlock. The Cartheus frame accepts full current. Runes bury themselves in the rock like staples. The mouth shrinks from grin to gritted teeth. "Now would be excellent," the apothecary remarks to no one and to Hulk in particular. Hulk picks up the idea of a hammer, a limb wrapped in brace and intent, and brings it down on the demon's center. Not head, not weapon, the meaning of it. The shape comes apart the way speeches come apart. When the crowd is gone, the grid takes the remainder and chokes it into a smear that tries to be a stain and can't find enough belief to hold color. The cave closes. Not healed, not sane, but shut. Silence arrives like a late guest. Smoldering pylons tick in the heat. The jungle remembers birds. The kill team keeps formation because that is what you do when your plan worked and you would like the universe to notice your manners. The sergeant faces Hulk across a shelf of rock that is carefully not a duel. "Containment achieved," he says as if reading the weather. "Good," Hulk replies. He does not posture. He checks the harness. A strap is frayed. A rivet wants to quit. He approves both facts. "Designation confirmed," the apothecary records, knowing full well names do less than bullets. The librarian inclines his helm by a degree. "You resisted influence," he says. "It is neither praise nor accusation. It is a datum." "No," Hulk says again, as if that is the whole sentence and sufficient. The Thunderhawk comes in low. Dust rolls over boots and basalt. The sergeant looks at Hulk as if at a puzzle he intends to buy time to solve. "We will return," he says, because it is required and because he wants to. "Good," Hulk repeats, not as threat, not as welcome, but as vector. They lift. The craft leaves the shape of its intention in the air for a long second, then erases it like a careful editor. In a red vault under a red planet, a thing with more locks than uses wakes up to the word deploy. The Magos who signed the petition watches apropos of 10,000 rules and one necessary sin. The cargo is a graviton inverter array, a heretical cousin of Weapons Mars. Pretends not to own. A field engine that can flip the obedience of mass across a local patch of reality. It comes with a manual that is a prayer and a warning. Do not stand where the world stops, remembering what down is. Beside it rides a null conduction shrine, a portable wedge of untaste that makes psychers wince and demons pull back the way fingers do from a hot plate. Both are stamped with serials that mean nothing and a sigil that means we will argue about this later. They are loaded into a courier with engines that sound smug. Destination: Granda Prime. Accompanying force: Skitarii, whose discipline suggests they were born from someone's calculation. The missionary frigate beams a sermon on encrypted bands because it can. Confessor Primus Hale narrates the cave's closing, as if faith tied the knot and keeps Hulk out of the story except as a scourge turned by providence. Aves lets the message go because there is no tactical benefit in fighting a man whose job is to name things after victories. He forwards a sterile version to Segmentum Command. The words exterminatus do not appear, yet. The mechs collect scorched pylon parts, test their edges with tongues, and declare that the problem was not enough. They start building pylons that sing louder, lower, and meaner. The WAAAGH field grumbles, but in that interested way that means it might cooperate if you flatter it. The boss, jaw-wired and pride refreshed, orders a charge the size of a settlement. If the music is gone, they will use numbers. Orcs love numbers when the numbers are all of them. The pain boy tries to staple a grot to a stick bomb to make a kind of guided weapon. The grot is thrilled to be useful. This is a culture where enthusiasm is an engineering discipline. Aftershock becomes pre-shock. The crater's rim flows 1 meter and stops, the geologic equivalent of a threat. Steam vents become sirens. Faults talk to faults. Banner taps inside Hulk's skull. If the big fight keeps happening here, the planet will make its own side. Hulk nods. He doesn't like talking to mountains, but he likes crushing under his boots less. He scans the land the way predators do. Where are edges? Where are bowls? What happens if down moves 2 degrees? He picks ground the way Astartes pick ambush sites. He is not trying to save the world, he is trying to not waste it. Avis, the captain, the sergeant, the librarian, 4 geometries at one table. Avis wants the door kept shut and the asset tested. The sergeant wants control, kill zones, crossfires, fallbacks. The librarian wants data, how the refusal field bends the warp. The captain wants fuel and timelines that do not end careers. They write a plan that pretends the orcs will cooperate by being idiots and the warp will stay shy. They annotated with the true plan, be ready to rewrite it mid-sentence. Land the null shrine near the cave, the librarian says, unrolling a chart. Cascade the graviton inverter along the orcs' approach vector. If the WAAAGH builds, collapse it downhill. Downhill is toward the crater, the captain notes. Not when we're done. The tech marine answers without looking up. It starts with drums that aren't drums, boots and bolts and bone against steel. An orc tide pours over ridges toward the crater, a green front with white teeth. Above them, the sky shows off a thunderhawk and a courier shedding Skitarii like seeds. The null shrine lands with a thud that makes psychers clench their teeth without knowing why. The air goes dull, colors mute. The cave sours like milk. Any demon considering a sequel reconsiders. The graviton inverter begins to purr. The purr becomes a drone. The drone becomes a decision about directions. Rocks lift, rotate, pick a new loyalty. Dust hangs in ribbons as if it has appointments elsewhere. Orcs roar in delight because the ground is fighting, and that is a plot twist they respect. The first rank hits the field edge and discovers that running up is different from running toward. Legs churn, progress languishes. The second rank slams into the first. The third learns flight without instruction. The sergeant calls ranges. The kill team writes curt paragraphs into the horde. Melta kisses a truck until it wants a shorter name. Heavy bolter lines carve grammar into mass. The librarian's palm opens and pushes sideways, not at minds, but at momentum. Just enough to tip the green wave into the inverter's teeth. Hulk chooses a flank where the inverter isn't and goes to work. He doesn't stand in the middle and dare. He cuts. The damping harness glows. The brace saves rock that wasn't going to volunteer to be saved. He breaks leaders and leaves followers to invent explanations. The WAAAGH field gets lumpy, which is a terrible way for magic to be. A big mech in a hat that is also an antenna points a claw at the inverter and screams a word that means reverse in an orc dialect of pure optimism. The field listens because fields sometimes do. The inverter stutters. Stable! The tech marine snaps, slamming a lever that was not on the spec sheet. Runes flash, then settle. Recommend no one stand there. No one stands there. A slugger boy tries. He becomes an object lesson that convinces at distance. The pain boy lights his guided grot. The grot salutes, weeps with joy, and sails. Perfect arc, wrong vector. Hulk plucks the grot politely out of the air and sets him down behind a rock. Boom later, he says. The grot nods, vibrating with pride. The cave's rim cracks, hairline first, then letter. A whisper of cold creeps out like guilt. The null shrine hums a no so pure it embarrasses temperatures. The librarian plants both hands on the shrine's rail and sings through his teeth. Harmonics that put splinters into the air. The crack closes again like a mouth swallowing a word it regrets. Something behind the world retreats a step and makes a note about tools. If fear and faith won't hold the door, it will look for a lever. Envy, grief, mercy, it has time, it is very old. The orc tide collapses into revel and recounting. The boss declares victory on grounds that the world did not end. He orders more pylons because that's how you answer a hymn you liked. Sing it louder, even if it killed you. The Deathwatch holds the ridge until boredom becomes dangerous. Then exfiltrates with the kind of neatness that makes administratum clerks write commendations by reflex. The Skitarii build a fence around the null shrine out of guns and consequences. They pray in binary to a machine that does not need it and does not mind. Hulk returns to his cradle. He sits, he breathes, he counts. Banner drags a thought into place. Control the next place we fight. Hulk nods. The task group breaks orbit to a higher, safer ring. Eva signs 3 papers, commendations, requisitions, and lies. He stares at a draft that includes the word exterminatus, then closes the file as if it could bite. Confessor Primus Hale writes a miracle that carefully forgets the color green. The Magos in red receives a ping that reads, Incant, useful, sin authorized. In the crater's half-light, Hulk tightens a strap on the brace and watches the wind test a ridge he will need soon. He is not a general. He is worse for enemies, a man who learns. Next, he says to the air, which has always been a better ally than most people. On my ground. Far off, something as large as a cathedral and as old as a star laughs in a language made of rust. Inquisitor Aves writes the order in neat strokes. Fulcrum. Deny fault line. Displace contact zone to stable bedrock. Maintain door denial. Test Sigma Prime on engineered ground. The council forms on the cruiser's tack deck. Aves, the ship's captain, the Deathwatch sergeant and librarian, a red-robed magos with cathedral cheekbones, a Skitari primus who speaks like math having a good day. Confessor Primus Hale, invited by accident or fate. Mars brings toys that shouldn't exist where auditors can see them. Graviton inverter array, field engine that rewrites down for a square kilometer at a time. Seismic hymn hammers, subsurface thumpers that persuade a fault to exhale instead of detonate. Null conduction shrine, already deployed at the cave, now to be ringed with auxiliary blanks and hexagrammic stakes. Aerial mirror kites, orbital dropped reflectors to push ash and heat columns where engineers want convection to go. The plan, spoken plainly, bleed the crater's tension into a pre-cut trench. Set a new basilica plane of vitrified load-bearing glass, ring it with nulls, invite the orcs to attack across engineered avenues, let the Worldbreaker pick lanes that don't end the continent. The Mago says, "We will perform a liturgy of angles." The sergeant says, "We will perform overwatch." Aves says, "We will perform containment." Confessor Hale smiles the way sermons do before history argues back. "We will perform witness," he adds. And nobody writes that down. They do not ask Hulk. They show him. Skitari drop like punctuation along the crater's rim, silent, symmetrical. Hymn hammers boom at measured intervals, not as weapons, but as apologies to stone. Over hours, a channel breathes out of the basin toward a dark shelf of basalt 2 leagues west. The graviton array hums. Dust becomes ribbon. Rocks choose elsewhere. The null shrine at the cave sings no in 3 keys. The mouth stays shut. Orbital mirrors nudge ash so wind behaves. Hulk watches from his metal cradle, forearms on knees, the damping harness sinking warm into shoulder and back. Banner's hands count cycles. Hulk's eyes track edges. He stands, steps to the new cut trench and tests. Jumps once. Landings don't split the plate. He nods once, a metronome tick for engineers. "There," he says to the air, meaning the basilica plane. "Next fight there." Consent granted in the only language he likes, vector. The orcs answer in capital letters. Feral orcs don't stay feral once someone bigger chooses scale. The boss with the wired jaw names himself Golguta, the bell louder, and points at the horizon as if he invented it. Mechs stamp a gargant out of belief and superstructure, a cathedral with fists and a city's appetite in its boiler stomach. They call it DA word bang because they want each footfall to be a statement. Noise pylons become boom basilicas that toll when cannon fire does. A captured shard of Mechanicus, field gear residue from the first inverter, becomes an up-a-down beam on the Gargant's crown, pointed like spite at the clouds. Painboys set up tall tents with wind chime bones and waiting gurneys. Grots carry ammunition like ants in a myth. The Waishi field fattens. Less chorus, more march. Ork doctrine remains perfect in its 2 lines. Bigger is true. True wants hitting. The cave's door is shut and braced in runes, but the warp is water with a degree it finds seams. If fear won't buy an opening, mercy might. First dreams Hulk's sleep, which is more stillness than sleep. Sketches a corridor of chrome and guilt, hands reach. A voice says the right things the wrong way. A woman's outline stands where Banner keeps his unfinished apologies. It's good mimicry, it's not the right weight, not real, Banner says. But pity is real, the warp answers, and it's not wrong. Then bait. A clan of human scabbers is pushed out of hiding by cult whispers and hunger. Children with lantern ribs, men with rope arms. They stutter toward the basilica plane, toward the only geometry that looks like survival. The confessor sees the column on auspex and calls it providence. Avis calls it a complication. The sergeant calls it a liability. The librarian calls it a lever. For enemies or for them, not sure which. Hulk sees them with Weather's patience. His jaw shifts. Banner moves a hand on a wheel made of discipline. "Help," he says, and that word is not for war. He walks to meet them slow. Slow tells predators this is law, not weakness. Fulcrum completes. At dawn, the fault line sighs. Steam veils peel off the trench and go elsewhere. The channel finishes its thought into a shallow river of glass and cooled obsidian. The Basilica plain gleams, matte steel in color, cathedraly flat, crisscrossed by expansion seams the Magos carved like hymn bars. Null stakes mark a perimeter. The shrine's song is a constant headache for demons. Skitarii form a picket that looks like bad choices dying. The Deathwatch take high ground on broken columns that used to be mountains. The Scavers enter the safe lane escorted by two black giants who pretend not to be Deathwatch because pretending is sometimes mercy. Confessor Hale walks among them like a saint rehearsing for a painting. He tries to address Hulk. Hulk doesn't stop. He nods once, which is how a boulder tells you it hears. "You are a weapon," Hale says, voice warm enough to boil water in the wrong place. "You are a sign." "I'm busy," Hulk says, and if the Vox historian were narrating, he'd call it mythic. As it is, it's logistics. The librarian watches the air around Hulk the way a physicist watches a blackboard for the line that will become a proof. The refusal field curves pity like light, not absorbed, not reflected, redirected into action. Lab note: pity can be a vector without being a door. Moral impulse converted to motion carries no handle for the warp. To catch. The warp takes notes with a nail on a mirror. It adjusts its plan. Golgotha's Gargant crests the basalt horizon at noon in an argument of engines. D.A. Wordbang wears a crown of horns and sirens. The up-a-down-a beam crackles with green arrogance. Drums the size of apartments answer Lance impact with laughter. The task group executes the opening measures. Lance strikes graze the flanks, never the boiler. Bleed pressure, don't feed detonation. Him hammers stagger cadence across the trench. Keep the fault asleep. The graviton inverter sets a shallow slide toward the new basin, rewriting down a degree at a time. Skitarii scythe green fronts into windrows. Deathwatch anchor intersections and kill anything trying to be a leader. Hulk moves before contact, choosing a flank where the inverter's slope will favor his footwork. The brace glows a quiet gold under the cyan lab light of the day. He tests give. The plate gives the right amount. The Gargant plants one titanic foot on the plane and sinks half a meter because the inverter said please to gravity. It bellows joy and offense. Two orcoid synonyms. The up-a-down-a beam lashes out like a fishing line for gods. It grabs volume and yanks. Boulders skid up. Shells arch wrong. The beam touches Hulk and tries to rename his mass somewhere above his head. He plants. The brace takes the lie and hands it back. He levers his stance through the new down and tears a column of vitrified plate up like a shield. The beam drags the shield, not him. "Mine," Hulk says, and the beam believes him because belief is infrastructure. He whips the plate. The beam kites it into the Gargant's crown like a gift returning. Mechs cheer because it's spectacular. Then it collapses their beam housing and the cheering transitions into a technical discussion conducted at high volume and speed. The Magos calls cadence from a cliff of spare numbers. "Now, down 2 degrees, hold, hammer 7, 8, 9. The plane becomes a very gentle hill that feels steep when you wear a city on your hips. The Gargant oversteps, its knee angels lose faith. It goes to one side. The WAAAGH field catches it, green chorus shouting up, and for 3 heartbeats the Gargant hungers for Sky. The inverter hum lowers. Sky stops cooperating. Golgotha rages from a pulpit near the boiler shrine. He orders the Claw of Bigger deployed, a tower fist meant to pick up insults and make them into stories. The claw claps into empty air because the insult decided to be somewhere else a moment earlier. Deathwatch Stitch melta up the claw's arm. The arm learns humility, then separation. Hulk hits the ankle, not with show, with math. Twice at a seam, once at a pin, once with his whole mass. The leg convinces itself it is a set of parts. The Gargant lists. Do not kill it on the plane. Aves orders, eyes on the fault map. Walk it into the trench. The sergeant copies the order into bolter punctuation. The librarian pushes momentum, a palm of sideways physics that nudges tons into a decision. The inverter smiles like a trick working. The Gargant falls, slow, towering, theater and ruin. It slides, catching the trench's edge with its hip, then goes over, groaning steel and believer prayers. It hits in the trench, not on the plane. The fault line stirs, then settles as the hymn hammers say the right apologies into rock. Steam flares skyward like a choir of kettles. Golgotha howls, a word that could be translated as either rematch or biography. His lads answer with both. The scavers, those the warp hoped to weaponize, still cross the plane under Skitarii escort. A stray rocket seeks them because stupidity is a tracking system. Hulk sees it. He shouldn't spare the step. He does. He sprints through bolter grammar and flying metal, catches the rocket like a thrown accusation, turns, and puts it into a dead pylon husk. It flowers with grateful fire. He doesn't look back. He doesn't need thanks. Saving them is how he keeps the map clean. Confessor Hale sees salvation and begins a cannon in his head. The librarian watches the refusal field bend pity into choice and files a paper no one will read correctly. The warp takes more notes. If pity doesn't open him, perhaps guilt will. With the Gargant in the trench and orcs spilling like green gravel around it, the battlefield splits, brawl above, wreckage below. The kill team chooses below because below is where leaders get trapped and legends become targets. They descend, black bolts on glass, steady, methodical. In the trench's steam, they meet Golgotha, jacket of chain plates, jaw wired with a machine's honesty. Eyes lit by a field that mistakes devotion for voltage. Bigger, he grins, recognizing an argument worth having. Your doctrine is sound, the sergeant says almost kindly and puts 3 bolts where doctrine ends and biology begins. Golgotha does not die like a man, he dies like a point hammered shut. The WAAAGH field hiccups, surprised. 1,000 fights in the same second, lose 1 drum beat and find another. Orcs are excellent at both. Above, Hulk rips the Gargant's backplate open like a can with an opinion. Boilers belch. Mechs scream affectionate profanity. He reaches for the heart and stops. In the mirrored metal of a pressure dome, he sees a woman reflected where the boiler should be. Hair he remembers in a timeline he doesn't own. Eyes rehearsed from a cage that called itself care. The warp knows which lines to paint. Bruce, the reflection says, soft and surgical. You're hurting them. You don't have to. The field leans in. The null shrine song is distance. Distance helps truth. Banner braces a shoulder against a door only he can see. We help by finishing, he says inside. Don't help by stopping. Hulk places a hand on the pressure dome, gentle as vows. He moves the dome aside, intact, sets it down next to a catwalk where a grot gapes at his own heartbeat. The grot bows because some stories advertise self-preservation. Then Hulk tears the boiler heart out with the care of a surgeon who hates the disease more than he hates the patient. The Gargant's song drops 2 octaves into regret. Fires gutter toward a negotiated peace. The Magos rides the numbers like a cathedral organist. Hammers, stop. Inverter, hold. Mirror kites, vent east. Shrine, maintain. The trench breathes. The plane stays plain. The fault line lives. The planet, perhaps for the first time today, does not take sides. Scutarii push forward hex stakes and blank pylons, building a quiet fence around the cave precinct. The librarian lays thin glyphs along seams, seals that are less about holiness and more about consistency. Aves watches the board and allows himself a fractional unclenching that isn't hope, just not fear. After the press of crisis, the confessor finds Hulk at the edge of the plane, seated again on his cradle, brace straps creaking like ropes on a pier. Hale speaks softly, which is his most dangerous setting. What you did for those people, I moved a thing, Hulk says, is grace. It's work. Hale considers a different tack. You could lead. Hulk looks at him the way cliffs look at paint. He shrugs one shoulder and the brace sighs. No priests, he says, not unkind, which is as unkind as he can manage in that sentence. Hale swallows whatever he had been nursing and replaces it with a smile that will look canonical in woodcut. He will write the miracle anyway. He cannot help it. That's not profession. That's geometry too. That night the wind crawls with whispers. Not cultists, children. They ask not for rescue but for permission to blame. The apology banner owes to the dead. The living to himself is made into a mirror that shows only loss. The refusal field does something new. It flares not to burn but to occlude. Empathy roots into tasks. Check straps, reinforce seams on the cradle, move rocks that will roll, carve channels that will carry rain away from tents. Every act drains the charge of the whisper. The method looks like stoicism. It's actually engineering. The warp hates tools. It retreats to learn nouns it can bend later. Mercy didn't open him. Guilt couldn't. Perhaps love. Perhaps praise. It has time. It is very old. He walks the cruiser's night deck and updates 3 columns. Spent. 1 Gargant. Wrecked. A belt of pylons. Glass. A warband's cohesion. Lumpy. 2 boxes of Deathwatch munitions. Worth it. A trench's temper. Calm. Ode. Mars expects relic rights on everything we touched. The Ministorum expects a saint. Denied pending miracle. The Deathwatch expects truth to be delivered unadorned. Granda Prime expects not to be killed for convenience. He writes but does not send a recommendation. No exterminatus, not yet. The board is better than yesterday. The asset is useful and not an enemy to citizens. The door is shut. He files a different request that reads like cowardice and is actually courage. Reinforcements to replace his luck. Dawn finds Golgotha's boys already building again on the far ridge. The Pain Boy has new ideas for bones. The mechs argue over whether bigger wires carry bigger belief or just more fire. The WAAAGH field hums contentedly. A good loss is a plan with free stories. 1 grot, perhaps the one Hulk saved, plants a tiny banner drawn with charcoal. A green fist the size of an apple. He places it by a rock because he wants to live through the day. Another grot laughs and plants one beside it because he wants credit if he dies. Somewhere in that chittering nonsense is a theorem. Violence loves competence. He drafts it on a slate while the sergeant pretends not to read over his shoulder. Title: On the kinetic conversion of moral impulse by refusal fields in non-psyker macro entities. Case: Sigma Prime Worldbreaker. Thesis: Pity and guilt, when applied to Sigma Prime, drop out of psychic channels and re-enter material channels as tasks, increasing stability and denying the Imperium levers. Corollaries: coordinate with the engine through work offers. Do not frame aid as grace. Frame it as load-bearing necessity. The sergeant grunts. So, hand him things to carry. Exactly, the librarian says, pleased by plain talk. The warp will not leave the door alone. It cannot open it with fear or guilt. It tries music, not orcish drums, but choir, a chorus tuned to a man who once believed angels were ideas worth bleeding for. Cult remnants in a new cave, smaller, smarter, hum a minor key they found in a stolen codex. The sound crawls under the null shrine's blanket like a patient ant. The note is perfect. Pity and pride ring in it. It gathers in a line like a blade laid across a tablecloth. Hulk hears it and stands. The Deathwatch hears it and move. The librarian hears it and bares his teeth because elegance is the worst weapon in the wrong hands. Countertone, he tells the tech marine. The Magos nods without theology, only acoustics. Stakes hum. The shrine leans on its numb. The hymn hammers thump the ground. Boom, 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 the planet's metronome. Hulk walks into the cave with a hand on the brace like a man entering weather. The choir blade moves to meet him. He doesn't swing. He steps through and the blade, denied the handle Pity wanted to give it, skips across a surface that feels like fact. He removes a keystone stone by stone. No Rage collapses a lintel with a shoulder, carries 2 cultists who are mostly victims out and leaves 3 who are not under rock history. We'll call wait. The blade has nowhere to stay. It goes out like a tune you forgot in the morning. The Basilica Plain holds. The trench eats a gargant and does not burp. The null ring keeps the old door shut and the new cave's honest. Civilians survive. Orcs reset the clock by noon because that's who they are. The Worldbreaker accepts choreography as long as choreography is work, not worship. Aves authorizes salvage to Mars with conditions. Nothing leaves orbit until his seal sits on it. The Magos agrees in the tone machines used to mean temporarily. Hale prepares a hagiography with the pronouns filed off. The sergeant inventories bolts and finds satisfaction in counting. Hulk sits on his cradle, tightening a strap, eyes on a ridge he intends to own next time. The brace clicks. The harness hums. Banner breathes. "Control the next place we fight," Banner says inside. "Already doing," Hulk answers aloud, which is both a joke and a plan. Twilight pours iron into the sky. On the far ridge, the orcs light 1,000 braziers around the bones of a new machine. It looks like a church that learned to walk. It laughs, a sound made of plates and promise. In orbit, a courier blinks from Mars with a seal Avis does not want to break and will anyway. The title line reads, "Vestibule Access Authorized." Below it, a code name older than the Admiralty, Cataphract. Aves feels the ledger grow teeth. On the plain, the Worldbreaker watches the ridge as if listening to something slow and ancient approaching. He isn't smiling. He is ready. Fear didn't open him. Guilt didn't either. So the warp chooses praise, the most flattering pry bar in creation. On Granda Prime, a walking church of iron and appetite crests the ridge with a laugh made of boilers. In orbit, Mars unwraps a sin it named Cataphract and swears it's a tool. Between them sits a man-shaped field equation who only ever says no and work. The board is set. The planet holds its breath the way continents do. They called the first Gargant a bell that learned feet. This one is a cathedral that perfected mockery. It wears arched armor plates like nave vaulting and carries a nave inside its ribs. An orc choir thundering drums that don't know what pitch is, only loud. A crown of pylons hums up and down of frequencies through a yard of copper theft. Reliquaries made of shells and shin bones dangle from gantries like promises. On its breastplate, a crude glyph of a green fist copied from a grot's brave little banner and magnified into dogma. Orcs don't do iconography. They do jokes that became true because enough throats agreed. The boss of bosses today is no longer Golgotha. He is Golgotha again. Because orcs recycle names like ammunition. He stands on the pulpit with a megaphone that is also a cannon and conducts the WAAAGH with both arms like a saint inventing electricity. The cathedral laughs. The ridge laughs back. And that's not geology, it's audacity finding resonance. The Courier's Bay unfolds a siege frame like a red secret deciding to be public. Cataphract. Imagine a Titan's spinal column stripped to function. A walking lattice of gravitic ribs, seismic shunts, voided anchors, and a spear of null chained in the center like a lightning bolt in a reliquary. No cathedral plating, no banners, just angles and intent. The Magos running it wears a face like a metronome and a voice like a legal statute. Cataphract is a planetary vector corrector, she says on a line everyone pretends is encrypted. It pins mass where mass forgets manners, and it drives no into metaphysical interfaces do not stand where we tell the world to change its mind. Skull rubrics on the frame whisper warnings in Beneric. The Deathwatch Tech Marine traces a cog tooth and murmurs, heretical, useful. Both can be true. Ave signs the deployment with a stylus that knows it's a dagger. The Ministerum's Confessor Hail is not the warp, but the warp loves parallel invention. He walks among the scavers and writes a liturgy that leaves out names, then writes a different one in the quiet inside his ribs that doesn't. A saint with fists, a green mantle, a refusal stylized into virtue. Below, in caves that keep trying to happen, cult remnants hum a counter hymn that spells praise in the old language of ownership. You are chosen. You are ours if we love you. Be what we say, the tune lines up with Hale's draft as neatly as a blade slipping back into the scabbard it never should have left. The warp presses, belonging across the plane like a blanket. It feels good the way quenching feels good to hot metal. It is still a tool. Hulk doesn't hear it as music. He hears it as pressure trying to make a handle where his shape has none. No handle, he says, almost amused, and tightens a strap. Fulcrum gave the Imperium ground. Vestibule gives it doors. Aves names it in the file because names keep plans from bleeding. The objective is not to kill the cathedral, which is a symptom, and not to kill the man-shaped engine, which is a problem solver. The objective is to select where problems can exist. The board, the basilica plain, vitrified, ringed with null. The trench, a pressure sink that eats tonnage and anger. A new constructed vestibule, a shallow amphitheater of glass and hex stakes. Empty center, engineered downslope into the trench. The pieces cataphract to pin the cathedral's hip at the vestibule's lip. Graviton inverter to persuade the fall direction. Null shrine to keep doors shut and praise thin. Deathwatch to cut leaders, edges, and seconds. Worldbreaker to make decisions where numbers don't reach. Trajectory. Pull the cathedral into the vestibule. Lock one ankle with cataphract's grav spear. Invert slope 3 degrees. Let momentum finish the rosary. Avis adds a note only he reads. If praise spikes, sever the narrative. No saints, no names, only tasks. He doesn't know how to do that to a planet. He hopes someone on the ground does. The laughing cathedral comes like a procession that forgot how to stop. Drums annotate the air, the up-a-down-a crown lashes reality into hiccups. The WAAAGH field purrs mass consent. Cataphract steps onto the plane like a theorem adding itself. Its null spear unspools a pale, ugly light that uncharms colors. Seismic feet clamp, anchors bite glass like confession bites pride. Contact, the Magos intones. Vector correction 3, 2. Apply. The spear spears without hitting. Space stiffens through the cathedral's left hip. The machine's stride notices. Its laugh dips half a key. The WAAAGH field argues. Cataphract does not argue, it holds. The inverter hums down the amphitheater slope. The vestibule becomes down, just a little more down than it used to be. You don't see it. You feel it in the knees of things that were not designed by cowardice. The cathedral lists toward the bowl. The WAAAGH shouts no, and physics replies yes like a polite clerk. It happens at once, too neat to be an accident. Hail lifts a blessing that finally names the green refusal a sign. Cult throats in a hidden cleft harmonize with a stolen chord. Civilians begin a chant, because relief needs rhythm. The warp pulls a sheet of belonging over the plan and tucks it in. For a heartbeat, the Hulk is beloved, not by Banner, not by himself, by others. The handle starts to form. You are ours, whispered in the voice that tells lonely men they have a place if they hold still and obey. The null ring keeps the door shut. It cannot stop praise because praise is not a door. It's a rope. The librarian feels it first. His vox goes thin at the edges. Shut up, he snarls before he remembers he's a gentleman, and then into channel. Sever narrative! Aves hears, doesn't understand the art, understands the urgency. Sever! You don't kill songs with counter songs. That's dual thinking. You work until the song can't find a surface. The sergeant moves his team without orders. They begin tasks in the open. The tech marines slam stakes at the vestibule's east rim. Measured spacing, measured force, counting loud. The apothecary organizes scavers into water chains from boil to triage. Lift, pass, set, counting loud. The librarian, miracle of decorum, starts a drill cadence. Left, 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 right, left, chopping the praise rhythm into labor. Confessor Hale sees the vector in an instant that decides what kind of priest he is. He shreds his saint script without ever opening it and bellows a litany of work that names no man. Hands to the line. Count your steps, count your breaths. No heroes, only jobs. The civilians respond the way thirsty earth responds to rain. They move, barrels lift, stakes set, cables pay out, the praise rope frays into breathing. Hulk feels the handle trying to happen and finds air instead. He grins, small, private, like a craftsman whose tool did exactly what he built it for. Work, he says. Good. The warp screams in a voice no one can hear because it tried love and got discipline. Pinned at the hip by null, pulled by slope, opposed by its own drunken crown, the walking church buckles. It tries to stand on faith. Faith isn't a load-bearing member when mass commits to down. Hulk doesn't attack the chest. He attacks the story that lets it stand. Pylon lines, knee pins, the claw of bigotry grown obscenely with redundant joints. He undoes the retcon with fingers, elbows, shoulder checks, each blow a line item. The sergeant times a melt-a-stitch with Hulk's rhythm. The librarian pushes momentum a degree. Cataphract wrenches the hip another arc minute into comply. The inverter purrs like a cat sitting on a prophecy. The cathedral tilts, choir screaming, boilers confessing. On the pulpit, Golgotha again bangs the megaphone until it is only bang, and then until it is only bone, yelling bigger as if the word itself can buy time. It can't. The nave becomes asleep, the reliquaries chime the way bells do at funerals they didn't schedule. The cathedral falls into the vestibule, then rolls, then pours toward the trench like a city laying itself down to sleep in the wrong place. The trench accepts with a sound like a planet signing a treaty. The warp hates losing to counting in glass. It sends one more weapon, the one it reserves for heroes that refuse, belonging with conditions. For 5 seconds, a thin surgical window, everyone sees a version of Hulk who is already a saint. Banners in their colors, statues in their squares, a name in their mouths that is a leash. The sergeant blinks it away by checking a bolt count. The librarian lets it pass like a headache while reciting the multiplication table of runes. Hale clutches his relic and chooses silence over victory. Civilians pass barrels, counting. Hulk watches the leash slip toward his neck and raises both hands. Empty. He turns, palms outward, not in surrender but in shape. There is nowhere to tie the rope because nothing sticks except jobs. No priests, he says again, kindly this time. For Hale, for the warp, for anyone who needs it written clearly. Banner watches the moment from the one chair inside the engine where men sit. He doesn't cry because the harness doesn't care, but something in his ribs, tendon, vow, loosens. The Magos doesn't cheer. She doesn't scowl. She says insert and cataphract spear inserts, not into the cathedral, which is already becoming geology, but into the vestibule's wall. Space goes rigid. The last of the walking church does not splash up. It stays down. The trench exhales like a wound learning not to. Cease inversion, she orders. The plane returns to plane. Hymn hammers fall silent. Mirror kites drift to store. Aves lets out a breath he intends to bill someone for. The orcs do what orcs do. Cheer, loot. Begin building again out of the new shapes. They draw bigger fists on bigger plates because a joke that survived a funeral is a doctrine. The Skitarii fence, the null shrine with more guns and fewer prayers. The Deathwatch counts ammunition, casualties, and guilt. 2 out of 3 are acceptable. Confessor Hale writes a litany that names no one and teaches everyone. He is not happy. He is right. Aves updates the ledger. Spent 1 walking cathedral, 1 trench's patience. A crate of melta and a ship's worth of courage. Gained. A method. Pick the ground, pin the mast, deny the door, sever the song, offer the engine work. He prepares 3 transmissions. To segmentum command. No exterminatus. Door shut. Civilians stabilized. Xenos threat contained by engineering and interdiction. Ongoing Ork presence manageable. To Mars, salvage rights granted under seal. Cataphract declared field-proven. Null assets to remain in theater until geomantic stasis persists for 30 days. To the Deathwatch, Sigma Prime classification revised from kill to vector asset, liaison by behavior and tasking only. No oath binding, no cultic observance, no names. He pauses on the 3rd. He writes, no saints, sends it. They meet at the cradle because chairs tell truths better than thrones. Aves, the sergeant, the librarian, the Magos, Hale. Hulk sits. He is already working, tightening a strap that holds a story together. We can leave, Aves says without preface. We can stay and manage. Or we can declare the risk too great and burn this world so the file reads clean. He says the last because it must be said, not because it must be done. Burning breaks the board, the Magos says, pragmatic as stone. It teaches nothing. Staying breeds worship, Hale counters, surprisingly gentle with his own argument. We have to write a frame where no man becomes a relic. The librarian offers the only bridge that won't collapse. We name the work. We ritualize the tasks. We write the litany of the plane and put every hand inside it, not around a throat. The sergeant looks at Hulk. We give him fights on terms that keep the planet alive and the door shut. We don't ask for a flag. They all turn to the only person who doesn't want to be in the conversation and who therefore is the only one they trust. I don't lead, Hulk says. I lift. You point it heavy. I move heavy. You keep doors shut. Aves nods. The nod is a treaty. That is the accord. Hale breathes like a man lowering a banner. Then I will teach work as worship, he concedes. No saints. No one thanks anyone. It's better that way. By dusk, the orcs have a counterpunch ready because narrative pacing is for species that write. A wheeled platform made of cathedral bones and wishful thinking. The sermon on rollers. Loud, tall, wrong. They push it with laughter down a slope the inverter now refuses. It gathers speed anyway because will is an accelerant. The sermon belches rockets like testimonies. The plane is suddenly full of punctuation. The Deathwatch sigh the sigh of men robbed of their tidy exit and begin the last paragraph of the day. The librarian gestures sideways. The tech marine flips a switch Mars never labeled. Cataphract plants a foot. Hulk stands, adjusts the brace, and arrives where the sermon will be wrongest. He doesn't destroy it. He redirects it. One hand on a frame, one shoulder against absurdity, into the vestibule where momentum pays fines. Grots cheer, then run, then cheer again because running was fun. The plane settles. Again, it will do this 1,000 times. That's what planes are for. Night wraps the plane in gunmetal and old smoke. The null shrine hums a lullaby and numbered cataphract powers down to a prayer that's just numbers. The orcs on the ridge tell the day wrong on purpose because that's how they love it. Hulk sits on his cradle and tightens a strap the way some men polish metals. He looks at the ridge where tomorrow is assembling and at the trench where yesterday is cooling. Banner breathes once in chorus with the machine. The brace hums. A vox from the Deathwatch clicks open. One word, professional, unadorned. Vector acknowledged. Hulk answers the only way he knows, by standing, by pointing his body at work, by leaving handles for no one. He is not a saint. He is a method you can use if you don't try to keep it. Above, the cruiser turns like a patient thought. Below, the planet decides it can survive another day of being taught. The walking cathedral is silent, the door is shut, the rope is cut. Tomorrow will bring bigger. Good, he has terms.